If you guys enjoy what I do, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it's free and easy to do. Welcome to my channel where we cover the lore of Final Fantasy XIV. We cover the stories both big and small, the epic and the cute, the silly and the tragic. I hope you all enjoy the ride, and welcome to the Chronicler of Lore. The scions of the Seventh Dawn have all gone their separate ways to have adventures of their own, but that doesn't mean you can't stop by to check on Tataru. She's happy to see you, but the real reason you stop by is for the tea and snacks. The Rising Stones is quiet with everyone gone, but Tataru is still keeping track of everyone because apparently she has sources scattered all over the place. Obviously, she has way too much free time on her hands, and she wants to spend some of it talking about what you plan on doing next, since traveling to the edge of the universe was apparently not enough entertainment for the Warrior of Light. Since you're always spending time helping people, she figures it would be a good idea for you to set aside the title of Warrior of Light and just do some exploring for yourself like the old days. There's still a lot you haven't seen, and Tataru thinks the best place to start exploring is Thavnir. It wasn't like you actually had time to tour Razat-Han when you were there last time, since the world was ending and stuff. And of course, there's the Bounty Sea that you can explore since the Garlean Empire doesn't have control of that area anymore. Or really any area after their entire nation went to crap, so you're free to explore. And since Selk did mention the ruins beneath the Bounty being somewhere that the bearer of Azim's crystal should go, you have a lot of stuff to do. Tataru, as usual, had planned on making some traveling clothes for you, but they're not finished. She claims that it won't take long, but after hours of sewing with the Warrior of Light falling asleep quite a few times because watching somebody craft is not all that entertaining, she finishes. But not before you have a strange dream about a void scent returning to the 13th shard. A void scent that definitely was the one bonded with Xenos, but that's something that's gonna be a problem for another day. For now, Tataru has whipped up your new outfit for the small price of having you wear it so other adventurers will want to buy their own. With your new outfit thrown onto your expanded glamour plate set, you head off to Thavnir to gather information on rumors and quests the old-fashioned way by hanging out in a tavern. The server at the tavern in Razat-Han takes a minute to recognize you, but when she does, she's eager to help you in any way that she can after everything you did for her nation. And since she sees all kinds of people in her line of work, she actually has a patron who has been talking about a sunken treasure vault. He's actually at his usual table at the moment, because luck is always on the Warrior of Light's side. His name is Professor Jalene, and he'll happily talk to anyone if they buy him a drink or three. Since you get to drink for free because of your hero status, pumping the man full of happy juice is easy. With a few drinks in him, Jahil starts to tell you the story of Azadal, who was the leader of the Auri tribe that sailed to Thavnir and played a pivotal role in the history of Razat-Han. He was the reason the Arkasodara won their war with the Gajasura, which led to the founding of Razat-Han. But the person who was really interesting was his grandson, Azadal III. He was the satrap of Razat-Han in the early days, and some people say that he managed to travel to a different world and came back with a lot of treasure. The sunken vault you were hearing about was his. The stories say that he took over a small island in the middle of the Bounty and built an underwater storehouse where he stored all of his treasure. Since that day, every time the people of Razat-Han fell on hard times, stories of the treasure would pop back up and adventurers would try to seek it out. Most of them never made it back home. The ones who did survive wouldn't even mention what they saw. Recently, a friend of someone he knows was trying to set out to find the temple, and he was desperate to buy a treasure map from a merchant that was supposed to show the entrance to the place. Jalheen can't remember the merchant's name, but his friend Azama should know it, and the man came in while the two of you were talking. Once you tell him who you are, Azama lets you know that a friend of his did go out searching for Azadal's legacy. He's been watching the seas, but he hasn't seen any sign of his friend. He tried to talk the man out of going, but all he talked about was the vault and his want to find Azadal's otherworldly hoard, and he wouldn't be convinced not to go. He had talked a merchant into telling him the general area where the vault was, since Zashal was selling a map to the place that the man couldn't afford. He was only able to buy a hint that said there are some ruins on an island in the bounty that has a hidden path to the vault. The Warrior of Light's pockets run a little bit deeper than most people. Well, mine did until I put in a bid on a medium house in the Imperium, so she goes to find the merchant. The man's not hard to find since he has a small crowd around him, complete with a young orphan boy who's trying to convince him to give him the map for free so he can find the treasure and feed his sister. He claims the map's not a fake and has a magic glyph on it that's needed to get into the ruins, so even if you find the place without the map, you can't get in. He found it in some rubble after the final days, and now he's trying to sell it. The orphan boy is clearly working with him to try and convince people to buy it, and of course it works on the one person who's even worse with money than Alphino, Estinian. He doesn't even ask the price before he hands over a whole pouch of coins. He buys it before he notices you, but when he does, he can tell you're planning something. When you tell him you were planning on going to the ruins, he points out that he just bought a map to the place like you can't see the giant rolled up parchment in his hands. Now what is surprising is the fact that Estinian wasn't tricked at all by the merchant in the performance, nor does he know whether or not the map is fake, but he does know that the two of you will need a ship to check it out. He hopes it is real because he wants to get the treasure to help the people of Thavnir recover from the destruction they dealt with during the final days. That was the reason he bought the map. He knew it was a scam, but the part about the boy being an orphan and needing to take care of his sister was real. So if the money they made off of the little scheme helped the kid a little bit, Estinian considers it money well spent. Since you're definitely going to go with him, the two of you head off to find Matsuya, since the Arkasodara is a fisherman and probably your best chance to get a boat. Matsuya is more than willing to get a boat ready for your trip, and when he runs off to do it, Estinian calls out for the little orphan boy to show himself, since he's known the whole time that the kid was following you since you left Razathan. The boy had felt bad for scamming Estinian once he realized that he was one of the people who had saved them. He should have felt bad about being a con artist no matter who he duped, but I guess this is a start. Since Estinian hadn't been tricked, he forgives the boy, but there's more. Apparently the map is legit, but the ruins are dangerous, and he doesn't want two heroes to go out there and die. You should at least bring more people with you. Estinian is pretty confident that the two of you can handle whatever you run into, but it wouldn't hurt to have some help along. Unfortunately, finding Thancred, Urianger, Alphino, and Alisaie would be difficult since the twins are out in Garlemald somewhere, and there's no telling where Thancred and Urianger have wandered off to, but Grahatia and Kral are in Sharlayan, so you go to get them while Estinian takes Marad back to the city so the boy won't get eaten on his trip back. Kral and Graha are exactly where you expected them to be in the Baldessian Annex, and they are of course happy to see you. The two of them have been putting together the records of all the activities of the students of Baldessian. There's quite a lot of them in the library of Sharlayan, and adding that to what you found in Eureka means they have a lot of paperwork to go through, meaning they probably won't have time to go out adventuring with you. Kral actually had something that she wanted your help with, but seeing how Graha is struggling to contain his excitement at the chance of going exploring with you again, she decides that her task can wait. She'll keep doing the research while you and Graha go to this treasure vault, as long as you aren't gone for too long. Graha is happier than a kid at Christmas, and since this little expedition could lead to some interesting discoveries, he figures that it would be a good idea to bring Y'shtola. Since the scions went their separate ways, she spent a lot of time in the Google library trying to figure out how to travel to other worlds. She didn't have much luck, so she came back to Sharlayan and has been going through the books in the Numenon. Since it was rumored that Azadal had been to other worlds, Y'shtola might find this little venture to be worthwhile, and of course her company is always welcome. Before you go to retrieve everyone's favorite catgirl, Kral suggests you bring Urianger along too. He had sent a request to the students of Baldessian for some papers talking about the architecture of treasure vaults and stuff. Apparently the Loporrits are trying to improve their creations and want to learn how things are built on Etheris. And since Urianger is working with them, letting him see the underground treasure vault will work wonders when it comes to helping the bunny munchkins build the next place that will likely kill you. Kinda wondering if they're gonna be the ones to build the next deep dungeon. The Warrior of Light has no problem bringing Urianger along, so after you retrieve Y'shtola, you and Graha will hunt him down. You find Y'shtola snoring on top of a pile of books, which is odd for her, because she never falls asleep while doing research, so instead of waking her, you and Graha plop down beside her to scare the crap out of her when she wakes up, which works like a charm. Granted, she looks like she wants to kill you both after she makes a book fall on her head. She had been reading for 3 days straight before she passed out, and she still hasn't found any hints on how to travel between worlds so she could fulfill her promise to Runar. But that doesn't mean she's even close to being discouraged. She sees it as a challenge, one that she plans on getting back to after you tell her what you want. She's heard of Azadal, but she's never heard of his descendant traveling between worlds. Now that she has, she's definitely going to come with you. She wants to leave as soon as possible, but first you have to get Urianger from the Thalmazane. She's eager to leave, probably because she didn't want to have to put the mountain of books back on the shelves. Urianger is hanging out by your favorite rocket ship, and he's alone. Thancred had some personal errand to handle, but he should be back soon. The two of them had headed off together to see just what shape the world was in after the final days, but their trip was interrupted when they got a call from the Loporrits. The Moon Bunnies have been trying to figure out a new purpose for the moon, since it's not needed as an escape shuttle anymore. The Forum has been working with them, and Urianger decided to help too. Apparently the Moon Bunnies believe that adventurers like treasure hunts, so they're building a quote, wonderland of riches and mystery to draw in explorers. The place is likely a theme park of blood and death if Smileton is anything to go off of, and Urianger helping likely won't change that, but he'll gladly come with you to get some ideas for the bunnies. Plus it'll be fun to do something that doesn't involve world-altering events. With the 5 of you including Estinian, you should be able to handle whatever you find, but as you get ready to head back to Estinian, Thancred shows up. He had tried to catch up to one of his former mentors, but he had missed him. I'm not sure which one he meant, but we'll probably find out later. He did notice that the land is in chaos after the final days. Since people no longer have a common enemy, that's to be expected. While he does seem a little bitter about you stealing his traveling partner, he doesn't think it'll be a good idea for him to come with you. Too many scions traveling together may make people ask questions, so he decides to survey the Far East while you all head to meet Estinian. The Dragoon had expected you to come back with one person, but you showed up with a small army. Matsuya's boat should still be able to hold you all, so with the map in hand, your group of supposedly disbanded scions head out to Azadal's legacy. The merchant wasn't lying. There are ruins out there, and if you hadn't brought the map, the bridges and doors wouldn't have opened for you. While the map gives you access to the place, it doesn't change your ether, so the various security devices try very hard to kill you. I can definitely understand why the people who came here never made it back. But the scions fought their way across the universe, so even facing off against an enemy that wraps you up in strings and spins you like a top doesn't stop you. The trip does turn out to be worth it, because not only is there a lot of treasure, there's a giant device that's sealed up that definitely has something valuable inside of it. It would be a wasted trip if you didn't open it, but before you do, Vritra, using his tiny mortal body, comes rushing in to stop you. He can't imagine why you're all there because there's no way the heroes who saved the world are acting as simple tomb raiders. Estinian is bad with anything deceptive, so he outright admits that's exactly what you're doing. The device you were about to touch was meant to seal something away, and knowing that your curiosity won't be sated without an explanation, the dragon opens the device to reveal a very functional void gate. A small one, but it is a portal to the 13th shard. While everyone else is creeped out, Ishtola of course is excited. The sight of it leads to a lot of questions, mainly about how a void gate came to be made in underwater ruins. For that to make sense, Vritra has to talk about some events that happened 5,000 years ago when the Allagans invaded Mericidia. The people joined Bahamut and Tiamat to push the Allagans out of their land, but after Bahamut was defeated, the Mericidians started to lose, so they summoned primals to help turn the tide. To counter that, Emperor Zan made a pact with the Cloud of Darkness, so the war between Allagans and Mericidians evolved into a fight between primals and Voidsent. You can only imagine how much death and destruction followed that. Vritra had heard Tiamat's roar, and he had raced off to join the battle with his sister Ajdaya. He was the last of Midgard Sormer's children to hatch, and his sister had raised him, so he was there with her when she fought against the army of Voidsent. But no matter how many she took down, more would appear. The battle seemed unwinnable, so Ajdaya did the only thing that she could think of, and flew through the Void Gate to fight the creatures at their source. Vritra tried to follow her, but the rift closed too fast. She's been lost ever since. Graha hadn't read about this in any of the Crystal Tower's records, but the Allagans probably just thought the dragon had gone crazy and done something stupid. For years, Vritra had hunted for a way to reunite with his sister. He had searched until Alec was gone, and the techniques that were used to open a void gate that a dragon could fit through were lost. Before the founding of Razat Han, Vritra had searched everywhere for a way to cross the rift, and under the sea he found a naturally existing planar fissure. Unfortunately, it was too small for a dragon, so after the city was made and grew, Vritra got the alchemist to work on expanding the rift. Eventually it was large enough for a child to fit through. The dragon used one of his smaller bodies to go through the rift, but he didn't find his sister. Instead, he found a lot of void scent crowded around the opening, just waiting to get through. He immediately fled and let the portal shrink. As the leader of Razad Han, he had to choose between endangering his people or leaving his sister trapped on the 13th. The place twists the ether of those that are there, but the first brood's scales are very resistant to ether changes, so even after 5,000 years, Ashdaya could still be alive. With the warding scales, technically anyone could go to the 13th and hold off the corruption. But Vritra has a nation to lead, so he can't worry about his likely long-dead sister. That's why he came as soon as he sensed intruders. He wanted to make sure that no one messed with the Void Gate, or his money. Much to Ishtola's displeasure, he reseals the gate. Still, the fact that they managed to control the gate is great news for her. Unfortunately, Vritra doesn't remember everything about how it was done, but he will tell her after he gets new guardians sent over from the High Crucible. He has a lot of spare guardians around, so it's not that big of a deal. Granted, the scions do feel bad when it's revealed that they were the tomb robbers that the alchemist had detected. With that done, Vritra explains that his alchemist had made a method that let his magic turn the fissure into a functioning gate. The process has been forgotten after so many years, and he hadn't bothered to write it down. Other than making another pact with a major void scent, which usually doesn't end well, there aren't many ways to open a gate. But that won't stop Ishtola, and since Vritra gives her permission to study the Void Gate, she will probably be opening her own soon. But you won't be there to see what she does, because Krau did have something that she wants you to help her with, and it's rude to keep the Lalafell waiting. So that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe, ding that notification bell, join the Discord, and if you really want to show your support, sign up to become a member of the channel. Until next time, guys, later.